the technical delay. We're back, and it is a Tuesday morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's the Conservative Cat Show. Smash that subscribe button. We have so much to get to today, and I'm just going to jump right in because we've been off a couple of days. Sorry for the technical issues on Friday. Had a little bump in the road today, but I think we're back, and we're going to be talking about Karoline Leavitt because she dropped the mic on these Democrats calling on the troops to defy military orders, lawful military orders. So, yes, we're going to be talking about Karoline Leavitt. We're also going to be talking about these extreme leftists. I can't believe what they've done with this whole power washing the Einstein Executive Office Building. They're going after President Donald Trump via lawsuit, these leftists, because he wants to power wash and brighten up this dingy old building. I mean, the Trump administration can't even use the freaking bathroom in the White House at this point without getting permission. It's insane. From some court judge. So we're going to get to digital IDs because they go live in Illinois. And this is the beginning, folks, of a state-controlled society. And it's kind of freaky. I also want to get to this. This is a hyper-local story, but I mean, it's really got Illinois statewide implications. Illinois is being exposed here, and really the federal government. There's a few things that Donald Trump obviously has done during his presidency that I'm not super hyped about. Okay. The 50-year mortgages, that was bizarre. The H-1B visas, also very bizarre, that interview he had with Laura Ingraham. Another thing that I've talked about before is data centers. Now, I'm kind of caught in the middle on this because there's a lot of tax incentives out there right now for data centers, tax credits, tax breaks for data centers AI. Okay. And I'm not the biggest fan of AI. I use it every day. I love AI in a sense that it makes my life easier, but I know that it makes us dumber as a society. I know that, the rise of technology, that means that the end is near. And the rise of technology and social media and really any kind of technology is really bad for children. But I don't think it's the boogeyman that people have made it out to be. We do have to beat China in this. And that's Donald Trump's goal here with all the tax breaks and incentives. However, going about this the same way, like Democrats and Republicans, I'm finding out more and more, they're just two sides of the same coin. You're not going to get anybody who really says, hey, giving these corporations a break just because I deem them winners, or we want to beat China in this technology. I don't know if I'm necessarily agree with that. I think if you let the free market go, you don't need to give tax breaks to certain industries. Democrats do too. Democrats say, you give tax breaks to the wealthy and to corporations. They do it with foreign interests and foreign companies like wind, solar, the electric vehicle. Goshen comes to mind. Governor J.B. Pritzker did a bunch of tax breaks for the CCP-linked electric vehicle battery maker in Manteno. And there's a lawsuit there where the residents were really upset because this is heavy industrial. It's not safe to be putting, rezoning our property and then putting these heavy industrial plants right there smack dab in the middle of commercial property. What used to be commercial property with Goshen, it used to be a Kmart. In this story, we've got Constellation, which is a energy company, and they are kind of caught running the same playbook that they did in Marseilles, and the locals there are very unhappy. They are saying that they are using hostage tactics, Constellation, and of course, they haven't said outright that it's going to be a data center, but everybody kind of understands that it's going to be a data center. Data centers take a lot of water, a lot of resource, a lot of electricity. And we're going to start seeing this. And I wonder if Illinois is going to take the position against data centers just because AI is pro data centers, pro AI. He wants to be China in it. And they do this stuff with windmills and solar panels. They come in, eminent domain, and then they take all of the locals' property away for these solar panels that are Chinese bunk, and they suck and they catch on fire. Okay, the solar panels or the windmills fall down. They don't really yield any kind of energy. Data centers, unlike wind and solar, the benefit to providing tax breaks and tax credits, and I'm not necessarily for this because I don't like doing it for whatever corporation, and I don't like when Republicans do it, and I don't like when Dems do it. Dems, when they do it, it's just absolutely stupid. Okay. They choose the worst types of industry, and they choose industries that China is linked to. And they give China a leg up here in the United States. So, yeah, when Dems do it, they really botch it. When Republicans do it, I'm not happy about it because I'm a free market absolutist, right? Let the free market breathe. If we're meant to beat China in AI, then we're meant to beat them in AI. We don't need tax dollars funneled into some of these corporations, these AI meta, Mark Zuckerberg's pocket. So we're going to get to that as well today. So smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I know I've been gone. We've had quite the time. As you guys know, moved to South Carolina. It was a decision to be close to some family here, but also Illinois is Hellinois. It's Pritzkerstan. The politics were getting insane. And I've always told you, get out of blue states, get out of blue cities, make the red areas more red. I was actually in the store the other day. I was talking to somebody about how we had just moved here. And she goes, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, I grew up about an hour from Chicago. And she goes, "Ooh," she goes, "Hopefully you don't bring, I don't mind if you bring a little bit of snow with you, but don't bring your politics." That's what somebody straight up told me in the store. She goes, "I hope you don't bring those crazy Chicago politics here." And I was like, "Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'm a conservative talk show host. You don't have to worry about that. I am very well aware of what's going on in Illinois. Yeah, it's just going to be, we had an opportunity here, and, the opportunity is way better than what you could ever get in Illinois. And it stretches further because the property taxes are insane there. The taxation is insane. We said, you know what? Why stay? Make the red areas redder. And I've always said that blue cities, get out of them. Blue states, get out of them. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to tell you about Illinois politics and Illinois corruption, because there needs to be a light shined on it. Because I've lived there my entire life. I still have family there. It was a really tough move, but I think it's going to get better. I really do think that there's going to be some sort of turning point. You guys know that Charlie Kirk is actually from Illinois, Arlington Heights area. And, maybe this is crazy talk or whatever, but I truly think that God is looking at Illinois and has had his hand off of Illinois for quite some time. And there is going to be some sort of awakening happening here in Illinois. As far as politics and the corruption, I do believe Darren Bailey is going to secure the gubernatorial position. I think that he's going to win his race. And I don't know, there's been a lot of things going on in Illinois where I'm like, yeah, we're in national news constantly. Look at what's going on in Chicago. That woman being burned alive on the Chicago Transit Authority bus or train. I couldn't believe it. We just gave them billions of dollars because they were at first it was a $750 million budget deficit. And then they said, oh, we can get by with $250 million. And then we cut a check for $2 billion. And I'm just thinking to myself, we just gave all the taxpayer money to a transit system where women get burned alive. Young women, she was 26 years old and she was burned. I think that she survived her injuries, but it was insane. The damage, the burns were super severe. So praying for her recovery. Last I checked, she was still alive. But the attempt there was definitely to burn her alive, he said. Burn, bitch, burn. Okay, that's what this guy did. And he had 72 arrests or something crazy like that. And these judges just keep letting him out, letting this crazy person out. We need to bring back mental institutions, asylums where we force people into these asylums. The people who need to be there need to be forced into these asylums. We just can't have this anymore. State-run mental institutions, bring them back. All right, White House press secretary. Let's get to this story first. There's so much that I feel like I'm like dumping all of this news on you, but I haven't seen you in a couple of days. So we're going to go back a little bit. There was a press conference late in the week with Karoline Leavitt, and she blasted sitting members of Congress who participated in a video that she said sends a dangerous message. Now, this video, for background, I did a story on it a couple, now at this point, it was early last week, where I shared this video message from these members of Congress. They're former military members and CIA members, intelligence officers. And there was, it really was a message to the military saying, hey, active duty service members defy orders because we think that they're illegal. And I walked you through, there's very little reprimanding that would happen to these military members, even if they were following illegal orders. Okay. So if you're following a legal order, good. If you're following an illegal order, like any reasonable person, and this is like quite literally the definition, if you are a reasonable person and you reasonably come to the conclusion that this is a lawful order, which they're going after Donald Trump for these busting up these drug vessel boats, okay, from Venezuela. And I don't want to get into a war with Venezuela. I think Donald Trump is using Truth Social. I think he said something about a regime change there with Maduro. I'm just like rolling my eyes. I don't think that is Donald Trump's true position. A lot of times he'll put things out on Truth Social and get people talking, and that's just Donald Trump playing 4D chess. So I don't think that we're going to do a regime change in Venezuela, which would be excruciating for America. I don't want to enter into any more wars. This is my generation. We just are so tired of entering into other people's wars and other people's business. I'm tired of foreign aid to foreign countries to fight their wars and to fight their battles, and I just don't want to deal with it. But I don't think I think Donald Trump threw that out on Truth Social anyway. So we've got some issues with Venezuela right now, and they're sending drug boats over to our country full of fentanyl. They're not taking our country seriously. And the irony of this message that was put out there by members of Congress, they said, don't give up the ship. Okay. And this comes from the 1800s, the War of 1812. There was a captain, James Lawrence, and he said, don't give up the ship to a young military guy. His name is escaping. I think it was Oliver. And Oliver challenged the Brits. He lost this battle. Okay. James Lawrence lost a battle with the Brits. War of 1812, to sum it up. It was, nobody was taking our young country seriously. 1776, American Revolution. Hell yeah, we defeated the Brits. But they weren't really taking us seriously, and they were doing all kinds of things as far as like trade and not treating us the way we ought to be treated. And the War of 1812, there was a lot of just battles on the water. Really cool war. And I love history. Really cool war. But he lost that battle, Captain James Lawrence. And, he had this big old canister shot. Have you guys seen what canister shot is? It's about I'd say like a little smaller than a baseball size. and he was blasted with this canister shot, this captain on the boat. And I mean, the fact that he was able to talk at all was insane. But his last words were, "Don't give up the ship." And, a young military guy, Oliver, he heard that, challenged the Brits to a fight or battle on Lake Erie. And he ultimately won that one. It was one of the greatest victories in 1812. And, I find it so ironic that was their message. These members of Congress who were former members of the military, they were saying, hey, don't follow these orders. They're unlawful. Actually, Donald Trump, what he's doing, blowing up these vessels, is just like what James Lawrence had advocated Oliver do. Get them to take you seriously. Don't give up. Okay. So I don't know. It was just very ironic. It's like they don't know history. They have no idea what that saying actually means. It's all about American spirit, American grit, and blowing up a fentanyl boat coming in from Venezuela. I don't know what's more American than that, and what's more 1812 than that, reminiscent of 1812 than that. So during a White House press briefing, Leavitt was asked about the president, and the president had made some comments. I made the comments before the president did. I said, this is really seditious behavior coming from our lawmakers, coming from the members of Congress. And I said they ought to be careful, because if we were in a time of war, if they're encouraging military members to defy lawful orders, or what's deemed lawful orders, that is punishable by death. Okay. And I said, hey, these 6 Democrats in this video, it was Elisa Slotkin, Mark Kelly. I'm going to get to Mark Kelly here in just a little bit, because Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, they've issued a statement about Mark Kelly specifically. I'll get to him a little bit later. Chris DeLuzio, Chrissy Houlihan, Maggie Goodlander, and Jason Crow. These are all former members of the military intelligence community. They released this video. And I said back then, when I saw the video, I was like, this is sort of borderline like punishable by death. If we were at a time of war, and like I said, that's might be a possibility. Donald Trump puts things out on Truth Social that I just, quite frankly, don't believe. I think that he's playing 4D chess, and he says, we're going to regime change Maduro, but I don't think that's going to happen. If it does, I'm going to be pretty peeved off, because that's not very America first, getting us into a war with them. I think we've handled it with the blowing up of the fentanyl boats, the drug boats that are coming in. I don't think it warrants a full-blown war or regime change, okay, in Venezuela. But let's take a listen to Karoline Leavitt at the press conference. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe. Here we go.
This morning, President Trump accused 6 Democratic lawmakers of seditious behavior punishable by death. Just to be clear, does the president want to execute members of Congress?
No. Let's be clear about what the president is responding to. Because many in this room want to talk about the president's response, but not what brought the president to responding in this way. You have sitting members of the United States Congress who conspired together to orchestrate a video message to members of the United States military, to active duty service members, to members of the national security apparatus, encouraging them to defy the president's lawful orders. The sanctity of our military rests on the chain of command. And if that chain of command is broken, it can lead to people getting killed. It can lead to chaos. And that's what these members of Congress, who swore an oath to abide by the Constitution, are essentially encouraging. We have 1.3 active duty service members in this country. And if they hear this radical message from sitting members of Congress, that could inspire chaos, and it could incite violence, and it certainly could disrupt the chain of command. These 3 members of Congress, I will also add, knew exactly what they were doing. You look at Elisa Slotkin. She's a former member of the CIA. Mark Kelly was a captain in the U.S. Navy. Maggie Goodlander was a naval officer. And notably, she is also the wife of Joe Biden's national security former advisor, Jake Sullivan. And so these members knew what they were doing. They were leading into their credentials as former members of our military, as veterans, as former members of the national security apparatus, to signal to people serving under this commander-in-chief, Donald Trump, that you can defy him and you can betray your oath of office. That is a very, very dangerous message, and it perhaps is punishable by law. I'm not a lawyer. I'll leave that to the Department of Justice and the Department of War to decide.
Whew. She let her have it, that reporter. Now, the reporter pushed back on Karoline Leavitt after her comments there, and she was saying that President Donald Trump, his comments about, hey, this is seditious behavior, punishable by death. And it is, if we were at a time of war, I believe. Outside of that, it's a life sentence. Okay. But Leavitt let her have it. She said that the reporter said that Trump's comments were tantamount to encouraging political violence. Here is the response from the press secretary.
Karoline, can I just follow up? The president and the vice president, for that matter, have accused the other side of encouraging political violence. Isn't that exactly what the president is doing when he says that members of Congress should be killed?
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
every single
can refuse an illegal order, which
but
is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. Every single order that is given to this United States military by this commander-in-chief and through this chain of command, through the Secretary of War, is lawful. And the courts have proven that. This administration has an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court because we are following the laws. We don't defy court orders. We do things by the books. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable. And that's what the president wants to see.
And I think Mark Kelly is ultimately going to be held responsible. And here's the thing. The legality of these orders is not up to a military active duty service member to really decide. It's the court. And as she had said, we have an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court level. But even if these orders were illegal and that ultimately wound up being the case, if on its face you question the legality of it and you're not sure, which even these members of Congress are saying, these are illegal orders. We are encouraging you not to follow illegal orders. There's some ambiguity, like it's up to interpretation, these laws or these orders. Okay. I think that it's very clear. Bombing some or striking some drug boats coming in from Venezuela, cleaning up our blue cities, allowing the military to go in there and assist law enforcement, immigration enforcement, assist them in deportations with lawful orders from a deportation judge in order to deport, obtaining that and then deporting. All of that's lawful to me, and it all looks lawful to me. But like I said, I'm not, a lawyer. But even if these things were illegal, on its face, it looks reasonable. Okay, and it's not really up to these active service members to determine the legality of these. And that's why even if you follow an illegal order, there's not much punishment. If it's blatantly illegal, yes, you will be held liable if you are directed in the military to commit some sort of crime. And it's blatantly obvious that this is a crime. But there's some question as to the legality here. If you want to, play devil's advocate, you can say, oh, it's questionable, some of these orders. I don't think it is. They've at this point been all deemed lawful by the Supreme Court. Like Leavitt said, they have an unparalleled record at the Supreme Court level. But questionable orders you have to follow. Even if you think that they might be illegal, you have to follow them. So later in the briefing, another reporter wanted to swing back around to this topic And she called out the utter hypocrisy coming from those in the room who would lose their minds if this was happening the other way around. Okay. If Republican members of Congress had, encouraged our active duty service members, our 1.3 million active duty service members, to defy orders. And it doesn't matter if they're lawful or not, really, because, like I said, if they're questionably lawful, like you're not sure, you have to follow them. You have to err on the side of caution and follow those orders. If they're blatantly illegal, which just by them putting out the video, the members of Congress suggests that they're not blatantly illegal because, if they were blatantly illegal, the military service members wouldn't have needed the video from the members of Congress. Are you catching what I'm saying? But if it was the other way around, they would be losing their minds. If this had happened under the Biden administration and it was Republican members of Congress, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But let's take a listen to what Karoline Leavitt had responded to this reporter who wanted to swing back around to this topic. Leavitt called out this reporter's utter hypocrisy. Leavitt knows, I know that if the tables were turned, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Take a listen.
If this were Republican members of Congress who were encouraging members of the military and members of our United States government to defy orders from the president and from the chain of command, this entire room would be up in arms. But instead, it is the other way around, and I think that's quite telling. If this were Republican members of...
Yep. I absolutely love Karoline Leavitt. She does a great job. Good morning, Lisa. Missed you too. If you're just tuning in, subscribe to the channel. This is the Conservative Cat Show. The video "Don't Give Up the Ship" surfaced early last week. I did an entire show on where that saying comes from. It comes from the 1800s. It's a term from the War of 1812. Look, these Democrat hoaxes have occupied a huge portion of Trump's first time around, during his first term. And I just see this keep popping up, this news. We're going to get to Mark Kelly. There's a statement issued by the Department of War. It looks like they might actually be seeking some sort of consequences for Mark Kelly's actions here. Punishment for Mark Kelly's actions. He was in the video. But these Democrat hoaxes, they ate up such a large portion of Trump's first term. And I'm really hoping that Trump doesn't let these idiots eat up too much of his second term. Okay. I think he's learned a few things since his first term. Don't give in to them saying, oh, you're issuing illegal orders. I wouldn't even give in to it. Just have the Department of War punish them quickly, swiftly, and let's get over this thing. Okay. There's no need for comment, really, from the president. He's not wrong. It's seditious behavior punishable by death. I said that prior to Donald Trump. I said these members of Congress ought to be careful defying orders, even if they're illegal, ultimately deemed illegal. You can get into trouble for that. You can, if they're not blatantly illegal, and any reasonable person would think, oh, these must be legal orders, and you follow those, you're not going to get punished. You're not going to be held accountable for that. But you will have to answer to defying an order if it's ultimately deemed illegal, or even if it is illegal and it was reasonably legal, or reasonably or you know what I mean, like the order's illegal but it looked legal. You can get into trouble for not following that in the military. All right, so another thing that I've got to get to this morning, Trump, he wants to clean up the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. So it is not a pretty building. It is not one of the more prettier or impressive buildings in the swamp, Washington, D.C., I can tell you. But of course, some crazed historical group, they're leftists, the historical group. They're just a bunch of leftists who have nothing better to do with their life, like, I don't know, work, provide a service or a product and get paid for that product or service. So they're part of a little historical group. So they immediately filed a suit to stop President Donald Trump from cleaning up this 137-year-old building. At this rate, like I said, the Trump administration officials, they can't even use the damn bathroom without getting judicial approval. So the Trump team was forced to agree not to take any more steps on beautifying this building, okay, for the rest of the year while the court proceedings commence. So there's just dirt and grime, and it's all over the building, and they want to like really pressure wash the building. Okay. So apparently dirt, grime, and that is all part of the historical piece of this building, I guess, folks. Evidently, God, these people are stupid. So a sudden declaration from the General Service Administration comes after DC Preservation League and Cultural Heritage partners, so fake and gay. Like, I don't know, something about leftists. They're all about joining like these nonprofits or unions, and it's like they just need like a little club or a little clique. It's kind of like these kids that were weird in high school. They all sat alone at the lunch table. You invited them. You tried to make them a part of the group. But they all sat alone and they were weird in this like back corner of the lunchroom and wanted to be by themselves in their little group. But anyway, so the DC Preservation League and Cultural Heritage Partners, a firm focused on historical preservation. Okay, they filed a complaint against the Trump administration after President Donald Trump speculated about painting. So he wasn't even like for sure about painting the White House building here, and he wanted to paint it like stark white, this building. Okay, so the GSA, the General Services Administration, there was a declaration, and that comes after the law firm that focuses on historical preservation filed the complaint. Okay, so you're caught up to speed. During a Fox News interview, Donald Trump said that the Eisenhower building was considered a very ugly building. Like, everybody knows this in DC. Like, it's not a very beautiful building. And he talked about how the gray color, the exterior is, mostly comprised of like polished granite, slate, cast iron trim. And he said that gray is for funerals. And he just went on and kind of lamented about its historic gray color. It's very gray. So think about this. The President of the United States and his staff have to get permission from a federal judge in order to repaint the walls of this, the exterior walls of this building, and to power wash the building. Like, that's where we're at now, folks. Like, and that's why I bring up this story, because it's so exhausting. Like, the president can't even do anything. He can't even use the bathroom without a judicial order. So these federal judges, particularly in DC, they wonder why we hate them. They wonder why we are increasingly just loathe them and despise them. And I don't trust the courts at all. I don't trust the judicial system, because you've got the president of the United States can't even say, yeah, let's throw some paint on this building. Once again, we have to ask why we had an election a year ago to pick a president when judges can simply prevent him from doing anything that they don't approve of. Okay, what's the point of the damn presidency? And they always say, oh, he's a fascist, he's a king. I don't know. The people spoke very loudly when we picked this guy in November 2024. We spoke very loudly. And I don't know, I think the fascists are the guys blocking that, blocking the American people's votes by preventing this guy from doing anything at all. So the White House spokesman, his name is Davis Ingle. He summed it up pretty much in a statement, and he said President Donald Trump is making the White House beautiful and giving it the glory it deserves. Only people with a severe case of Donald Trump derangement syndrome would find a problem with that. Sorry, I need a sip of coffee. Unbelievably, leftists saw this as a victory. So they filed a complaint, and Donald Trump, his administration, has agreed not to power wash, pressure wash the building or paint the building until the court's proceedings, finish up. And they saw this as a victory. Here's the statement from the little gay club, the cultural heritage partners. And they've always got these like ridiculous names that make them sound way more important than they actually are. The government temporary freeze on President Donald Trump's plans marks a significant step forward, says Greg Werkheiser. He's a founding partner of the Cultural Heritage Partners, and he said the court battle lies ahead. We are fully conscious of how much this is at stake. Yes, so much is at stake. Damn, the freaking building could turn white and could be pressure washed. So much is at stake for this wonderful building and the rest of America's treasures protected under law. I'm sorry, I can't even take this seriously. I can't even get through this without laughing. All right, we've seen how much progressives have absolutely freaked out about the White House ballroom, which is largely privately funded, and I don't understand why people are upset. They haven't provided any proof that the private donations going towards this White House ballroom project is a part of some sort of like you scratch my back, I scratch your back politics. Even the Fed Chair Jerome Powell has thrown billions at renovations for the reserve buildings, okay, the Federal Reserve's buildings. Okay, so this isn't unprecedented. Trump presidents, they come in. JFK did it. He did all kinds of renovations, and back then I think the media celebrated it. So yeah, they've absolutely freaked out over the ballroom, privately funded. No taxpayer money is being used. In fact, the taxpayers, the American people, should be applauding President Donald Trump because of that, as long as, the private funds aren't coming from, people who want political favors. And if that ever arises, then yeah, if there's evidence that proves that President Donald Trump is doing that, then it'll be exposed and it's going to be wrong. There's no evidence to suggest that's happening. He's just building a damn ballroom, and he's doing it without taxpayer dollars. All right. So, but as you can see, they don't want to beautify anything. They kind of want to live in the grime and in the filth. And I think that's ultimately what this is about. Progressives, they're not very progressive. Like, you would think that, beautifying the building up a little bit, putting a nice fresh coat of paint on it, that's like a more progressive thing. But they're very, what's the word? Just not progressive. They're actually sticks in the mud. Okay. And look at these cities. Look at San Francisco. Look at Chicago. Look at LA. They're dirty. They're gross. They're not beautified. They're not modern. And like, that's honestly why I think that they're going after Donald Trump so hard on this, is because they like living in filth. I did an episode, I think it was on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday morning was the last time I was live. And we did an episode with Karl Marx. Okay, Karl Marx. And we went into the history, his personal life a little bit, and what Marxism versus communism is. And Karl Marx was a nasty guy, didn't shower, had quite literally boils all over his back, and was hated by his wife and kids. Ultimately, his kids died from malnutrition because he couldn't even really feed them and provide them the proper nutrition. Karl Marx was a terrible person and loved living in filth. Lived in an apartment that was paid for by his friend, who was the son of a wealthy business owner. So historical, my butt. You guys really just like to live in your own filth because you're disgusting. And you don't want Donald Trump to do anything that he was elected to do. You don't want him to have any kind of power. You'd prefer that none of the Trump administration officials would use the bathroom without a judicial order because you guys are a bunch of fascists. So it's a dirty, old, ugly building. Needs a serious revamp. Hopefully, this is a temporary delay and they can revamp the building. Okay. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Let's dig into this story. I do want to get into this story about the digital IDs. We'll start there. And then eventually we are going to get to this morning yet. And I'm really excited about this. The Essex Coalition. So this is a group of Essex residents, Essex, Illinois. This is a tiny, tiny little town, actually, where I came from. So I grew up right around there. There's a little town called Custer Park. It's a little farm town. And then right next to Custer Park is Essex, Illinois. And the residents there are outraged over a data center that could be coming. It's a potential data center. But the Constellation says that we don't know. We might put something there. We just want a customer there that requires a lot of energy. We want a customer there who requires a lot of energy, who will need energy from us. And Constellation, of course, owns the nuke plant there in Braidwood. So we're going to get to that story here in just a few minutes, but buckle up because this is the place, folks, the conservative cat show where the truth has claws and the Constitution has teeth. And I'm your host, Conservative Cat. And today we are talking about government bureaucrats deciding that they're entitled to know more about you than your own family does. That's what this story is all about, these digital IDs. So pull up a chair, pour your black coffee, and maybe open up your Bibles to Proverbs 22, verse 7. The borrower is servant to the lender. Okay, and Proverbs 22, verse 7 reminds us of that. And oh boy, today's story is all about servitude, digital servitude, centralized servitude, surveillance state with a smile servitude. So let's dig into it because, ladies and gentlemen, Illinois just gave itself a brand new toy. Digital IDs. Yes. Secretary of State Alexi Janulius strutted into Chicago last week. And he announced with great fanfare, as they always do, big old press conference and great fanfare. And he announced that you can now store your ID, your driver's license, right inside your Apple Wallet. And not just Apple, but Google Wallet, Samsung Wallet. And who knows, maybe one day the Democrats will have their way and they can microchip your ankle. But don't worry, it's all for convenience. Okay. It's so convenient, to have your driver's license and it's all run by the government. And that's where I'm annoyed by this because there's, convenience, digitalized convenience. Okay. Done privately. I've just got a problem with it when the government steps in and says that they want to provide this service or this convenience. Okay. So, just like that, without a vote, without a town hall meeting, without a referendum, without a single pause to ask, hey, whether the government keeping your social security number digitally or, all of your identifiable information, there was no question asked whether the government can even do this effectively or if they can keep it safe. Like if they should be trusted with your real-time digital profile of your life. Can the government even keep that safe? Illinois has become the 13th state in the country to go all in on mobile identification. So now the state promises that it's safe, that it's secure, it's private. Nothing says secure like government servers. Not. Okay, this is the same government that gets hacked probably more often than a college kid's Netflix account. Okay. College kids, they're giving out their Netflix accounts to everybody and their Amazon accounts. This is government servers probably get hacked more times than college kids' Netflix accounts. Okay, so let's walk through what this means, okay, and why it's dangerous. And libertarians, people who I don't normally agree with, conservatives normally don't or normally agree with libertarians. We probably couldn't even agree on a lunch order. But they're saying that this program is a Trojan horse, rolling straight into the heart of your God-given liberty. It's a Trojan horse. So Alexei Janulius, he stood in Chicago and he declared that Illinois is joining 12 states and Puerto Rico and offering digital IDs. He beamed and he said, quote, this is out of the center square. This is only the beginning. That is what Alexei Janulius said. Don't know about you, but that gives me chills. This is only the beginning. What's next? Are you going to microchip me? You going to put a microchip in my ankle, Janulius? Anytime the government official says, "Oh, this is just the beginning," it never ends. They just want more and more and more and more of your freedom, and it ends in apps, more monitoring, more checkpoints, more data collection that winds up in the wrong hands, by the way, and eventually, we're going to wind up with something like a social credit score. I'll explain what a social credit score here is in just a second, but he promised expansion to Google and Samsung wallets soon. So right now, I think you can just do the driver's license in your Apple wallet. Of course you did. Because when Illinois jumps off the privacy cliff, they expect big tech to hold their hand. So they're partnering with big tech on this. And I don't like when government and when big tech start to do this. I don't like that. And he thanks the usual political crew, Michael Hastings, he's a Democrat senator, Cam Buckner, and Republican Representative Ryan Spain. Oh, how wonderful. Because apparently bipartisanship, or the appearance of bipartisanship, is more important than protecting privacy for Ryan Spain. The Illinois Uniparty strikes again. Republicans Illinois did the bipartisan work and they got this done, and really what ultimately happened, your freedoms got sold. Okay, so here's the thing. The biggest brag from the state is that your digital ID can now work at TSA checkpoints at 250 airports. Okay, the digital ID, Apple, it's in there. It's in your Apple wallet. Wonderful, because nothing says limited government like giving TSA, an agency whose one lost shoe from a meltdown, by the way, more access to your data. Okay, they already scan your body. Okay, what more do they want from you? Alexei Janulius, he assured us that the mobile IDs, they help close gaps minors exploit with the fake IDs to buy alcohol. Okay. There's ways to combat fake IDs. Some of them are really telling, but there's ways to combat that. Okay. Find the bad actors who are issuing these fake IDs and punish them, and make these punishments very harsh and deter people from creating fake IDs for people. Okay. Because let's be honest, they're not creating these fake IDs themselves. The college kids or the high school students, these young kids, they're not creating the fake IDs themselves. They're paying for it. So find those people, the bad actors, punish them to the fullest extent of the law, and deter that crime. Okay, that's a very easy way to close the gaps that minors are using to exploit, fake IDs and buy alcohol and to exploit our laws. Just punish the bad people who are doing that. Punish the minors who are doing that. If they get caught with a fake ID, punish them to the fullest extent of the law. No slap on the wrist. Throw them a big old fine. Throw them in jail, right? It's just there. And you have to admire how government always pretends that every power grab is protecting the children. Well, we're just protecting the children. Come on. Okay. Like this is a power grab. You're grabbing our digital profile. You're storing it. And I don't even think that you guys have a great track record, Secretary of State. It was just a couple of years ago, I think it was. They had people on the voter rolls, illegal immigrants on the voter rolls through the automatic voter registration program. Okay, just a few years ago, they were caught kind of with their pants down, and they were like, we've got illegals on our rolls. Okay, there's been multiple occasions where data has been breached. So normally libertarians and conservatives don't agree on this, but conservatives, what we believe in is ordered liberty under God. Libertarians are just atheist conservatives, really. I've found that out recently. I don't know. It just seems like every libertarian I come across, they're just atheists. And that's why we don't agree. But libertarians believe in things like no seatbelt laws, Bitcoin, things like that. But even the Libertarian Party is sounding the alarm here, and I can agree with them. Jim Hummey, their chairman, told the Center Square that digital IDs are a massive expansion of government power, something that centralizes personal information into one database, one system, one pipeline that, if hacked, misused, or abused, or repurposed, becomes a perfect surveillance tool. Yes, Jim. He said, quote, "It's on a path to create centralized database of personal information, making it easier for government to track everyone's movements and transactions." So, yeah, I mean, your driver's license is in your Apple Wallet. What else is in your Apple Wallet? Your credit cards. Is the government going to have access to your Apple credit cards or the debit cards that are in your Apple Wallet? Are they going to be able to surveil you and your transactions? When libertarians and conservatives are saying the same thing, it means one of two things. Either the world is ending, okay, or the Illinois government has gotten very, very dangerous. And I think it's the other one, okay, where it's gotten very, very dangerous. And Hummey, he pointed out the elephant in the server room here is that the Illinois government is not known for keeping data safe, and they're not known for cybersecurity. There's been times, in fact, Janulius, I think just last year, his office talked about a data breach. Okay, this wasn't some tiny glitch. This was a breach exposing names, driver's licenses, social security numbers. This has happened with voter rolls and things like that. The government can't keep sensitive information safe. They don't have a good track record of keeping sensitive information safe. And now they want more information to collect. Okay, it's like a thief asking for your spare key because he promises he won't break in again. Right? So that is what the story is. We're giving the thief the key. And the thief says, "Oh, don't worry. We won't break in." Okay, so Janulius, he promises you that Apple doesn't track where you use your ID. Okay, and that his office doesn't either. So you can, go to a bar, pull out your ID, they card you. Janulius isn't going to know that you went here. Okay, went to that bar and pulled out your ID and used it. Sure. Sorry, excuse me. Thought I was going to sneeze. Okay, they don't track anything yet. But Jim Hummey of the Libertarian Party correctly pointed out that there was the ability to do that there. Okay, and just the ability to do that is concerning. The infrastructure is there. The technology is there to track where you're using your ID. And we know the history of the government. If they can track it, if they can do it, they eventually will, if it's within their power. So you guys remember the Patriot Act? It was supposed to track terrorists. Instead, they track your grandma's library books. Okay, half texts you've sent. They track your text messages. Right. The Patriot Act does not just track terrorists. We know that. Remember the red light cameras? Right. They were supposed to reduce accidents. Instead, they became cash machines for municipalities. And their cash machines aimed at your wallet. They try to get you if you run a red light right away, and the fees are exorbitant. Okay, and remember COVID, emergency powers. Two weeks to stop the spread, right? We gave Pritzker all kinds of emergency powers to flatten the curve, and we were hit with 3 years. Okay, 3 years before anybody blinked. These emergency powers, and they gave you a state issued. I still have mine. I've got to find it because I want to show you guys in case you guys aren't from Illinois. It was a paper where they had a state seal on it, and it was issued to me by my employer, and I was deemed an essential employee. And had in the hypothetical situation I've been pulled over by police, I had to show them that paper that I was allowed to be out and about because I was deemed an essential worker. So always cloaked as safety, as Rob points out. Yes, always cloaked as safety. Oh, it's for your safety. Government promises are like Illinois roads, full of potholes, and they are structurally unreliable. Janulius proudly says that your digital ID updates automatically in real time. So what that means is like it'll update when it's supposed to update, and your government now has live current data card tied directly to your identity. Okay, so the state wants you to believe that this is convenience, and they want you to smile and nod, but this is another piece of your life in their digital filing cabinet. Okay, and this is how freedom erodes. I want to be clear. This is not like a huge, sweeping dramatic moment. It's a fun little convenient feature, but this is how your freedom erodes. It's little by little. It's not these sweeping dramatic movements where, they pushed you with COVID, with the essential workers and the paper. Now they're having you register or get your digital driver's license and the Apple Wallet. And it's just little by little. So Libertarian Party Jim Hummey notes that private digital ID services already exist. And this is where I'm at with it. Like, okay, Apple can offer this, but like the government shouldn't be involved, and we shouldn't be working in tandem with the government here, where big tech and the government of Illinois are working together on this. The private sector is almost always better at protecting your data, okay, than the government. Actually, Apple has a great track record of protecting your data. I just don't trust Illinois. If Apple get hacked, they lose customers. Okay, if Apple sells you out or your information, they'll lose customers. Now, if Illinois gets hacked, they shrug and they send you a letter that says, hey, we regret to inform you your identity has been stolen. Good luck. Okay, so I don't trust the Illinois government. They've got a bad track record. There's been data breaches that the Illinois Alexi Janulius has talked about data breaches at that office just last year. So yeah, I wouldn't be upset if Apple did this on their own, but they're working in connection with the government, and that's where it gets creepy. So from a Christian worldview, Scripture tells us repeatedly that placing too much power in the hands of earthly rulers is a bad thing. You don't want to do that, from Pharaoh tracking the Israelites to Rome registering the Jews for the census. That has sparked political unrest. Centralized data has always been a tool of control. Okay, so Revelation speaks of systems, economic, political, and digital, that determine who can buy or sell. Okay, so Revelation, the book of Revelation, speaks of this. Now, I'm not saying digital ID is the mark of the beast or anything like that. I am saying that we have to have discernment as Christians And when your government wants all of your data, like they've already got a ton of it because they have the DMV, you have to get your driver's license, you have to register your vehicle, yada, yada, yada. They've already got a ton of data on you. But now that you're putting your driver's license and they're working together with Apple, who's not to say that Apple will give them over some of your other cards and transactions? That's the only place really they don't know about, on paper, is where you're going and frequenting business-wise and how you're spending your money. So the next step is, once they figure out and determine how you're spending your money and, where you're going, the next step is to tell you to not go to certain places. Okay. So as Christians, we have to have discernment. When a government wants all your data, okay, they've already got a ton of it, like I said, but they want all of it in one place. Okay. And this is the Apple Wallet, updated in real time. History tells us that power rarely ends up in righteous hands. That is a whole lot of power. You're able to determine people's whereabouts, their transactions, what businesses they frequent. And that's freaky. The government can see everywhere you go, everything you buy, every service you use, every transaction you make. And that's really messed up. The government has the ability later to decide whether you get to participate in society. Okay. They've got the voter information, the data, or the voter data rolls. Okay. So the automatic voter registration. So, even if you don't vote, okay, you're automatically registered to vote when you go and renew your driver's license here in the state of Illinois. So you're registered to vote. Now, whether you vote or not, I'm sure the government knows how you vote. I mean, this is all kind of, public record I know the parties know how people vote. They use them for their door walking list. They use the voter rolls, how often you've gone out and vote and what elections you voted in. Like, they know all of that. So if you're a Republican, we see that you frequent, this business, XYZ business here. We're going to stop you from participating in society in this way. We're going to require you to go to this bakery and this grocery store, because these are Black-owned businesses. I could see it as a form of reparations. We're going to require you to go to this business instead. You like to shop conservative-owned businesses. Well, now you're not going to do that anymore. We want you to participate in society in this way. That's where this thing is headed, folks. And I know it sounds conspiratorial, but it's not. It's caution. I am urging caution. It's wisdom. And our founders, the reason why this country was founded was because they didn't trust centralized power. Okay. And that was the same wisdom that guided the founders when they fought the American Revolution. They refused to trust centralized power. Thank you so much for the super sticker. That's always appreciated. You guys can always support the program by sending us your chats, super chats, or visiting patriotpumpenergy.com using promo code ConservativeCat. It's the only promo code out there that's as great as it is. It's $10 off. That's a deep discount. We're practically, giving you the product. $10 off at checkout. Use the promo code ConservativeCat, patriotpumpenergy.com. Patriot Pump, it is a blend that is very straightforward. The supplement facts are on the back. You guys can read about the supplement facts on the website. It's a very straightforward product. We want you to have some caffeine, not a ton to get you addicted to the product. We're not about that. Some creatine and some black pepper extract to make the caffeine last a little bit longer. These are more natural things that you can do instead of, shoving 300 milligrams down your throat. That's inevitably going to give you a caffeine high, and then you're going to crash, and then you're inevitably going to need more caffeine, and then you're addicted to products that ultimately aren't great for you because they have artificial colorings, and most of the times they are got insane amounts of sugars and sweeteners. We give you a product that's tastes good. Believe me, we do put some sweeteners in there, and we try to do some flavoring, some natural flavorings, so that way it doesn't taste like chalk, because supplements taste nasty. But you're not going to get addicted to the product. It's designed to really actually help you. So check it out. Anyway, digital IDs. We're wrapping this up. They begin as optional. So right now, you don't have to put your driver's license in your, I'm looking for my phone here. I've got an Android. I'm not real big fan on Apple. I just don't like their products, but they do have a good track record when it comes to protecting your data, not giving up your data when it comes to the government. And they've always had a great track record, but now that they've kind of teamed up and they're kind of in cahoots with the government here with these digital IDs and with the Secretaries of State office, and we're talking about automatic renewals through the digital wallet, I'm nervous, but it begins as optional. But if you've watched Illinois government for more than 15 minutes, you know what comes next. First, it's optional. Then it's recommended. Then it's strongly encouraged. And then they're going to require it for airport travel. A digital ID in your Google Wallet or Apple Wallet. Then they're going to require it for voting. And I'm all for voter ID, showing your driver's license when voting, proving who you are. But, requiring your digital ID, that's where it starts to get creepy, where, you're not just signing up to get a driver's license, okay, but you're signing up to get a driver's license and then putting in an Apple wallet, and then they're tracking your transactions and other cards that Apple could be giving to the government, or they could have the technology to access those cards and see your transactions. That's where it gets really creepy. And you're only able to vote if you give us the data we want, the transaction data we want. And then you could, be required for healthcare access. And before long, you're not living in the land of Lincoln. You're living in the land of Beijing. Okay, you're living in China. Social credit scores. Okay. Which social credit scores are really fascinating. Are you frequenting businesses we approve of as the government? So, for example, there was a time when my husband and I were trying to figure out a bakery to go to in Springfield, Illinois. And I couldn't find anything. It was really hard to find. Like Springfield, not a lot of bakeries. We went down close to the Capitol there, and we saw Beelzebub's buns or whatever, Beelzebub's buns, and we walked in, and it's all satanic. I had to walk out of there. I just felt this like rush of like evil just come in, and I was like, yeah, I've got to protect my spirit man, and I am walking the hell out of here. Okay, and I chose not to purchase anything there because of the way it was. It was Beelzebub. It's a play on word for Beelzebub. Beelzebub buns, I think, is what the bakery was called. But it's a play on word because Beelzebub is like another name for Satan. Okay, so they had all kinds of like satanic stuff in there, and it was like pretty much a bakery dedicated to Satan. Weird. I didn't want to spend my money there. Now, say we live in like the land of Beijing. Say we implement something like a social credit score. Hey, you have to visit these approved businesses or these businesses. Beelzebub is on that list. So that's infringing on my religious freedoms, right? Forcing me to go to businesses that are approved by the state or deemed socially acceptable by the state. Okay, so if you don't think that the government isn't going to tie this to racial policy, climate policy, hey, this business, they have a windmill or whatever. They're climate activists. They're climate advocates, and we want you to visit, businesses that partake in climate advocacy. or we want you to participate in a Black-owned businesses. That's what I foresee happening, really, is, hey, you have to frequent Black-owned businesses, or you have to frequent, businesses that take a political stance, and i.e. really are pro-Democrat. If you don't think that's going to happen, you're just not living in reality. This is the same state that micromanages how many bullets you can use in a magazine clip. Okay. They're going to micromanage where you spend your dollars. And they want you to spend your dollars with their friends. So for years, I've told you that these people aren't interested in private sector life. They're jealous of you because you went in and you went into business, you're selling a product or a service, and you punch in, punch out, and you work a day job. Okay. They don't like that. They have decided to go on into the public sector, and they survive on political campaign donations and taxpayer money. Okay. So that is their means of survival. See, and it's not enough for them to just live in their world of the public sector. They want to infringe on the private sector, and they want to be a part of the private sector, but they know that they won't survive in it because leftists never really run their private sector businesses correctly, and they don't do a good job because really they want to get rich quick. It's biblical. There's just a foundational difference between a conservative and a liberal. So, for example, the liberal bakery that said, or the Beelzebub bakery, right? It's kind of silly to do a niche, and not many people are Satanists, okay? No, not many people. I mean, the main religion still here in the United States is Christianity, and you've alienated almost all of your customer base because you are worshiping Satan. Okay. Insanity. NPR, this is publicly funded, and that's why they don't do very well. They need the public dollars because they've got a product that nobody really likes. Majority, we are Christian conservatives here in America. We always lean a little bit right. They don't do well. NPR. Why? Because it's left leaning. Mainstream media, legacy media, it all leans left. That's why they aren't doing well. Okay. These cable news, ABC, NBC, MSNBC. This is why, they're like, we've got to can Stephen Colbert because he costs way too much to keep him on. Okay. They don't do well, legacy media. Why? Because it all leans left. And the majority, we saw this in the 2024 election. Most people lean right in America. Most people are traditional conservative Christians in America. It's just the culture here. It's changing because they're forcing it down your throat. But they don't really know how to operate in the private sector, and they want to force you to frequent companies that promote Satanism. Okay, these Democrats. That's literally what they want to do because they're terrible at running business. Okay. And it's really just comes down to a foundational thing where foundationally, if leftist Democrats are just not using the basic instructions before leaving Earth, the BIBLE, and the Bible tells us, hey, don't get rich quick. Work for what you've got. Provide excellent customer service. Democrats, they want to be high on marijuana, weed, and not provide you in stellar customer service, and they're not great at running business. Okay, that's why they flee to public sector, nonprofit sector. That's why they flee to those places, and they try to get rich quick. And if they are in the private sector, they usually go out of business. Sorry, but because they alienate most of their customer base. Because most of America is right-leaning, red, conservative Christians. We have been since 1776. Okay, our Constitution was drawn up by the founders. They had a Bible in one hand, and they drew up the Constitution in the other. Okay, so fundamentally, we just lean right. And Democrats, they just don't even want to serve your kind. Okay, they alienate you, and they write off essentially a good chunk of the customer base. That's why they don't do well in the public sector. But anyway, they want to micromanage you now, the government, and they want to tell you what businesses to frequent, not the business that isn't alienating half their or a majority of their customer base. No, they want you to be forced to give your money to their friends in the private sector who didn't wind up in the public sector or in the nonprofit sector. So they're going to micromanage how many gallons of gas you buy. Oh, you got a gas guzzler. You got a big old truck. Okay. Well, we're going to micromanage how many. We see that you spend, $175 a week on gas. Well, we're only going to allow you $50. So you might have to ride around in a Prius, right? So digital IDs are the infrastructure for digital everything, digital tracking, digital taxes, digital rationing, digital restrictions, digital policing. It is the skeleton of the future surveillance state, digital IDs. And once it's fully built, you are never going to get your liberty back. It started in Beijing. It started in CCP, China, with digital IDs. They started out with that, and then slowly they've got these things called social credit scores. And the higher your score, you won't die. Okay, that's essentially what goes on in China. Hey, if you frequent the businesses that are approved by the CCP more often than non-CCP approved businesses, then you have a higher social credit score, and we won't kill you. Okay, so for Illinoisans who want a future where your rights come from God, not from Julius's server room, this is the moment to stay alert. This is the moment to speak up. This is the moment to resist soft tyranny that always presents itself as convenience. They're presenting this as convenience. They hate women's rights. They're just racist, false. I don't know. They hate free speech. They lie to themselves and their supporters. For the record, this woman is not a Democrat. Yeah, I'm not a Democrat. God, my mom raised me right. Why do conservatives always try to tell the story about liberals? It's true. Democrats don't do very well in the private sector. I'd have to pull some studies, but I gave like an example of, this bakery. They're Democrats through and through in Springfield. A lot of these, coffee shops that put the LGBTQ sign up there. I mean, we saw it with Cracker Barrel. They had made adjustments to their logo, and then their stocks dipped. Go woke, you go broke. Okay, this is something that we've seen. Look at Bud Light, Dylan Mulvaney. Once things start to go woke, once the liberals start taking over the private sector, it all starts to tank, and people stop frequenting those businesses. Why? Because fundamentally, Americans are just more right. They're just more right-leaning, ultimately. I'm not saying they're as right as me. They're not far right, but they're right of center. Most Americans are right of center, which is why they voted for Joe Biden. Everybody painted Donald Trump as if he was some sort of extremist, and Joe Biden, up to his last presidency, portrayed himself to be some sort of moderate. Okay, and that's why he got the votes, and not to mention the election was stolen. But most Americans just lean right of center. And it's smart to adjust your business model and your advertising around that. Historically, advertising has always been right of center. Bud Light commercials prior to the Dylan Mulvaney one were like about men and football and frats, and like they had some really horses, some very like masculine, right-leaning sort of connotations. And then you got the Dylan Mulvaney thing, and then their stocks just right down the crapper. And it's just like, We see it with our very eyes. So yeah, they want to force you to frequent the Democrat-run businesses because the Democrat-run businesses don't really do well, and they want to force you to like them. Okay, so Illinois wants you to believe that digital IDs are harmless and that it's just modernizing. But this is a leash. Christian conservatives, this is a moment of unity. Libertarians, the state should not be centralizing your identity, tracking your life, and embedding itself into everything you do. Period. Bottom line. And if the Illinois government wants to prove they're trustworthy, maybe they should start by not leaking social security numbers like a sprinkler system. They've had data breaches in the past. And bottom line, whatever you think this is, I think it's an attempt at a social credit score, an attempt at trying to get people to frequent friendly businesses of Democrats, whether they're Black owned, whatever they say. They're never going to come out and say that, oh, these are our friends or friends of the party or people with certain political leanings. They'll never say that. They'll say they're climate activists or they have a social credit score of 10, and we want you to go frequent this business because they have a social credit score of 10 compared to 3. They're more woke, which is the whole ESG, economic social governance credits. They've got those, the ESG scores, which is why a lot of these businesses went woke. We saw it with Bud Light. We saw it with ADM, Archer Daniels Midland. They started making all kinds of like soy products because of the environment. Oh, God forbid, we eat meat. Meat. No, we got to make Beyond Burgers or Impossible Burgers, whatever you call them. And they were incentivized to do that by the Biden administration, and they gave them all kinds of tax credits to do that. And it was all about ESG scores. So if you have a higher score as a consumer, we want you to visit a business with a very high score. That is what that's all about. And Illinois is trying to do that at a state level. We see with Donald Trump, he got rid of all of that. DEI, right? The diversity, equity, inclusion. How many Black people do you have on staff? If you have a ton of Black people on staff, then your ESG score is really high, your DEI scores or whatever are really high, and you've been deemed in a socially acceptable business. And as a consumer, we want you to frequent or track, spend money here rather than here. And you as a consumer get a score as well. That's what goes on in China. Okay. Just look at what China does. So I want to take a quick break. My ID stays in my wallet. It's not going to go into Alexi Janulius's cloud. Okay. No, thank you. Do not put your driver's license in that Apple wallet. Don't do that. And don't keep your wallet in your pocket. Okay. All right. Socialist Zoran Mamdani. We're going to get to him because he's talking about a plan for free buses. And he was asked how he was going to pay for all of it. And his answer was hilarious. So we're going to get to him being recently interviewed about this topic, about the free bus plan that he's got. So smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'm going to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Subscribe right now to the channel.
Real strength doesn't need applause, and real faith doesn't flex for attention. Jesus said, when you fast, don't walk around looking miserable. Try to look holy. That's not devotion. That's performance. And God doesn't reward actors. Matthew 6, verses 16 through 18. Is Jesus calling men to fast in secret, where only the Father sees? Because fasting isn't about proving your discipline. It's about pursuing God with hunger. So real, you trade food for fire. You don't fast to earn points. You don't fast to make space. You weaken the flesh so the spirit gets louder. You say no to your cravings so you can say yes to something deeper. But here's the catch. It's got to be real. Not for your boys, not for social media, just you and God. In the quiet, in the dark. That's where rewards are born. In silence, in secret, in the furnace of unseen obedience. You want to be strong in public? Train in private. Fast without a stage. Pray without applause. Obey without a crowd. Your Father sees in secret, and he's the only one who reward what matters. Patriot Pump doesn't give you just energy. It keeps you focused. No fluff, no crash, just clean, hard-driving fuel for men who train with purpose and sacrifice. If you're building discipline in the dark, this is your edge. Train hard, stay sharp.
Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and above all else, subscribe. If you aren't already subscribed, make sure we do it. That is the best way to support the program. We're trying to get 2,000 subscribers by Christmas. I think we just need 25 left, so tell a friend to subscribe today. Socialist Zoran Mamdani. He is now the mayor-elect of New York City. Unfortunately for the city, they're about to find out just how bad of a decision they made. Mamdani, he was recently interviewed by this managing editor and anchor, Dan Menarino. And he was asked about his plan for free buses and how he would pay for all of the free buses. Okay. He was asked where he was going to get the $700 million that he would need to implement a plan like this if New York Governor Kathy Hochul does not raise taxes for this plan. So take a listen. Here we go.
And the other one, you're talking about fast and free buses and you're meeting with the governor. I've heard you talk about.
I'm sorry. I also don't trust any man that crosses his legs like that. I'm sorry. I had to chime in because it's just on my mind. I don't trust anybody who's like that.
Many times that you don't want to take money away from the MTA. Mm-hmm. You want to put money back in. It's something that she agrees with, right? We don't want to take away money from the MTA. How are you getting that money, the $700 million to make the buses free, into the MTA if she's not for raising taxes?
You know, I think that the two clearest ways to raise that money is through the raising of the state's corporate tax to match that of New Jersey. I think that a lot of this is still a case to be made, whether it's the corporate tax or whether it's the personal income tax on those who make more than $1 million a year or more. I think that these are the clearest ways. I've also said that if there are other ways to raise this funding, the most important fact is that we fund it, not the question of how we do it, but that we do it.
And the other one, you're talking about fast and free buses and you're meeting with the governor.
So in other words, delusion is going to fund this thing. So Mamdani said one of the ways would be raising the corporate income tax, which was already astronomically high in New York. We might beat them actually in Illinois. But that's likely going to make more businesses flee the city. When more businesses flee the city, you don't have consumer sales tax. You don't have them paying property taxes, those businesses. You're going to lose a lot of money. So this never works when you raise the corporate income tax, by the way, because you're going to lose a lot of revenue. And where are you going to make up that lost revenue when the businesses leave? So the interviewer interjected. And the interviewer, I'm not sure what his political persuasion is, but you would think that he'd, say, okay, you raise the corporate income tax, with businesses leave, then you're going to have a revenue hole. Okay, the businesses that are paying property taxes, the sales tax. So the interviewer interjected, and rather than mention any of that, he said, well, Kathy Hochul said no, okay, to raising the corporate income tax. And Mamdani mentioned, he diverted, and he said, well, why don't we do an income tax on people making over $1 million? Okay, you can do that. The people who are making $1 million leave. They own businesses, and the people are out of jobs, and yada yada yada. See, it never really works when you tax the wealthy disproportionately. It does not work. Okay, it should be a percentage, flat tax rate, right? And that is the best way. The church does it that way, right? Your tithe is 10%. Doesn't matter if you make $1 billion. Doesn't matter if you make $20,000, right? You're going to pay 10% of your income. That is the best way to do taxes. Now, I've always told you that I think income taxes are unconstitutional, and I'd love to see where our revenue is generated solely from tariffs and consumer-based tax, sales tax. Okay, that's where property taxes. I also think those are unconstitutional. Insert whatever tax, gas tax. I'm all right with. Sales tax, I'm okay with. Anything that goes after your income is unconstitutional. Your right to pursue happiness, which means prosperity, money, your ability to make money. The government shouldn't be infringing on that. And property, your property rights, in property taxes, you should get to actually own the home that you're paying for. Okay, and not have to pay property taxes years after you've already paid off the mortgage. Okay, you should actually get to keep your home. And try not paying your property taxes. You've paid off your home. You're still paying property taxes on it. Try not paying your property taxes. They'll kick you out. You need to have your property. Anyway, these income taxes never really work because they just pass them down, in the form of like, so for say this guy, he has an over $1 million income and he owns, a grocery chain right there in New York. He's making over $1 million, a successful grocery chain. What he's going to wind up doing in order to pay for that tax on his income, he's just going to raise prices at the grocery store. So here's what Mamdani said in the interview. The most important fact is that we fund it. No question of how we do it, but that we do it. Delusion. Man, I'm kind of thinking that if you don't know how you're going to do it, that's going to be a problem. Okay. That's just logical to me. I don't know. That's going to be a little bit of a problem. And I realize that you're a socialist guy and that you think that money grows on trees and drops out of the sky like magic little fairies with pixie dust. I understand that's where you're coming from. But for the rest of us, we figure out where our money is coming from to support the things that we want. That's how I operate my household. Hey, where's the money coming from? Do I have enough money to cover this want or not? Okay, and how do I generate more income to get the things that I want? So when you have a guy who has a deficient ideology, socialism, okay, and truly inexperienced, these are the questions that aren't real for him. Okay. I'm going to be as kind as possible. He has limited experience in this job and he has a deficient ideology, and these questions are always going to trip him up because his ideology is deficient, because he has no experience or real world experience. And New York elected this guy, Zohran Mamdani. They're about to find out. You messed around, you're about to find out. Not only are you going to lose the revenue from the buses, okay, by making them free, because right now you got some revenue coming in to support the transit system there in New York, but they're going to be rolling homeless shelters. That's ultimately what's going to wind up happening if you make them free. There has to be some sort of barrier, okay? Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of homeless, and that's what they already are. That's these buses, trains, they're already, and like I said, public transportation, I'm just vehemently against. Taxpayers shouldn't be paying for it, because guess what? The private sector has done it better. It's called Uber and Lyft. and people prefer that anyway. Okay, so the private sector has already figured it out. If we're going to do buses and trains, then do it privately. I'm fine with that. No government dollars. But it's going to be problematic for riders and drivers when these become rolling homeless shelters. That's assuming this ever happens. And I don't think that it will, because, like I said, they're not going to get the money from it through the corporate income tax. And even so, that's going to be like funding it for a year, and then they're going to find that corporate income tax, all those businesses left, and then they're with a revenue shortfall, budget shortfall. They don't have the revenue because the business is left, and they're not paying property taxes here, and the public sector scrambling for more money. So you might fund it for a year by raising the income tax on the wealthy, or raising the corporate income tax, but it's not sustainable. So even if this does happen, it's not going to be sustainable. And what I think this was something for him to dangle out there to get votes. I don't think he's ultimately all that serious about it. Judging by that interview, he didn't have an answer as to how he was going to fund this thing. And I get that he's delusional and he has deficient ideology, but still, he's ridiculous. I can hear all the people, planning on moving out already, moving out of New York. Take a look at this. This is something somebody shared on X, and I got cracked up. This is like Tinkerbell type stuff, where you've got, look at this guy, Chris. He shares this out. Just fund it. Magic pixie dust is going to fund it. So yeah, that's Zohran Mamdani. I'd imagine people are going to be moving out, and they're already moving out. And he hasn't even started yet. That's the crazy part about it all. He's a mayor-elect. He hasn't really started the job yet. All right. Let's shift gears. Yeah, I think I'm going to do the Epstein. No. We'll talk about Epstein tomorrow. I do want to talk about another Illinois story. And this is coming out of Essex, Illinois. Tomorrow I'll do some Epstein stuff, but because some fascinating things have happened. Jasmine Crockett, that Lee Zeldin had taken money from Jeffrey Epstein, but it was the wrong Jeffrey Epstein. Absolutely hilarious. It's just turned into a complete crap show for the Democrats. They were trying to get these Epstein files, and in getting more and more information, we're starting to realize that Jeffrey Epstein had a preferred party of choice, which was the Democrat Party. They tried so desperately to connect Jeffrey Epstein to Republicans and to President Donald Trump, but the more and more that comes out, we're starting to see that Jeffrey Epstein was a Democrat and he approved of the Democrat Party. So we'll get to that maybe tomorrow. I don't know, but I do want to get to this today, the Essex story, because this is the show where the truth comes first, liberty comes second, only to our Lord Jesus Christ, and corruption hides under the porch whenever conservative cat starts prowling. So smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Today we're going to Essex, not Essex, England. But this is a tiny, tiny little town. I'm actually from this area. Custer Park is right next to Essex. And Illinois Democrats, I'd be curious what their position is going to be on these AI data centers, if they're going to start to shut them down because the federal tax credits is being federally incentivized by President Donald Trump. Like I said, he wants to beat China at this thing. I'm not crazy about tax breaks, whether that's for wind, solar, or data centers. And this is happening in a tiny town. This is a very small population, and everybody knows everybody's cousin and their cousin's land deals. Okay, so it's a quiet little farm community. And suddenly, they are covered in the paw prints of a massive nuclear energy corporation, Constellation Energy. So nearly 700 acres were purchased. Millions here are on the line, and a trust us sales pitch so vague, it might as well have been written by the Illinois Department of Revenue, was given by Constellation Energy at this village board meeting. Okay, so this is a story of a village wrestling a giant. Okay, this is Constellation's a huge energy company. They own the nuke plant right there in Braidwood, which is just a few miles away from Essex. And this is a giant pretending that they don't know what they're planning to do with the 700 acres. Okay, there's 700 acres there that they have bought and that they're planning on selling to a customer. Okay, but they don't know who that customer is. Oh, well, this is going on, this purchase, and who the customer is going to be there quietly demanding a unified tax ID. Okay. Or a single tax ID. Yeah. And I'll get to that. But they also want special privileges, permit bypasses, and the ability to bulldoze over anything it wants to. So buckle up, grab your Bible, grab your popcorn, because this story is really at the heart of everybody's lives here. This is local government. This is stuff that kind of affects you. And there might be a data center planned for you. Constellation Energy, they actually signed like a contract with Meta, and they have to build data centers. Meta does, and Constellation Energy is going to provide the energy for the data centers. Okay, so close your eyes, picture this. It's a village board meeting in Essex. Local families, you got moms with strollers, you got farmers with calloused hands. They're all sitting there, and this Constellation Energy guy comes up and talks about how they bought nearly 700 acres of prime, flat, rural Illinois soil. And they're calling it a land for a future project. Okay, the future project is apparently not yet disclosed. Elliot Flick, and this is in the center square, he's the vice president for commercial projects. He prepared a speech and gave it with a corporate smile. And he said, quote, "We haven't decided or announced any projects at this site because we currently don't have a customer. Data centers are something we could potentially do. Other industrial applications are possible. Hydrogen production. We're exploring a variety of options." Okay, so is it a data center? Is it not? My friends, anytime a giant corporation shows up with lawyers, land purchases, political ties, and press-ready talking points, and then claims we don't know what we're doing yet, they know what they're doing. They absolutely know what they're doing. So Constellation just happened to buy this land near the Braidwood nuclear substation. This is a nuclear plant. It also has a cooling lake. You need cooling for AI data centers. You need an exorbitant amount of power for data centers. And they just so happen to buy this giant flat land, shovel-ready landscape. And, this is close to highways. It's close to the cooling lakes. They just happen to buy it. And they happen to also have this contract with Meta where they're going to provide energy for the data centers that they're building out. Okay, so they just coincidentally signed this contract with Meta. Yes, Facebook for new data centers and providing those energy to new data centers. But they don't know anything yet. No, they don't know who's going to buy it. Probably Meta. Okay, so we promise we don't have a plan for anything, is what the Constellation Energy had told the residents of Essex. And, that is a script that kind of mirrors what's going on in Marseilles, Illinois, west of Essex, Illinois. So this is where the story takes a turn. Kylie Rainey, a local resident and member of the Essex Coalition, this is in Center Square, she fired off, and she appears to have done her homework here. And she said, look, this is the same thing that is going on in Marseilles with Constellation. Okay, so Marseilles is a little town where Constellation also purchased big chunks of land, and they designated the land for emerging technologies. Yes, in that town, the same soothing lullaby from the corporation was sung. We don't know yet. No customer has been chosen. Look the other way, right? So what happened in Marseilles, there was a shady annexation agreement where it ultimately led to a lawsuit from the locals there because the locals feel steamrolled. So the Essex residents aren't dumb. They see that this had already happened in Marseilles, and they've seen this movie before, and they don't want a sequel filmed in their backyard. So the plot thickens here. There's talk of an annexation agreement happening in Essex. So she points out that some of the land Constellation had purchased was sold by village board members. So this is fascinating. The village board members, Ed Foley, and relatives, they had sold the land, and he's a village board member, okay, in Essex. And they sold the land to Constellation. Okay. Oh boy. So I don't know about you, but that sounds like corruption to me. That they are going to get to vote and talk about annexation deals with this company that they sold the land to. Okay, some of these board members had sold the land to Constellation. They shouldn't be involved in the talks, obviously, about annexation, this annexation deal. So when elected leaders or their family members sell land to a corporation, and they're also negotiating the government privileges for that corporation, that's a conflict of interest the size of a nuclear plant. Okay. It's huge conflict of interest, and they should recuse themselves from any kind of annexation talks or negotiating talks with the corporation as far as government privileges go. That would just be the good thing to do, the moral thing to do. Probably not going to happen. So Rainey then talks about this annexation bombshell. So she says, quote, in the center square, Constellation wants to demolish and grading, which I'm not a construction person. I think grading is just like flattening it. Grading, construction. If any construction workers are in the chat, throw it in there. So I think grading is like just creating a functional surface. Okay, so they're demoing some things, and they're going to do some flattening, and they want pre-approval without permits. So usually you have to get permits for all that stuff. They also want, in this annexation deal, it's really just negotiating what they can get away with, okay, and not have to, what they can skirt around government regulation with, which is fascinating. They want limitations to FOIA fulfillment. So you can get reporters. Reporters will, request a Freedom of Information Act request, and they can put that in, and they can say, like, okay, I want to know, like, what Constellation or who Constellation, provide me the emails between Constellation and village board member Ed Foley, right? And they want to be limited on FOIA fulfillment. Okay, that's part of their annexation deal. That's what Constellation Energy wants. So skipping permits. They want to skip permits. They want the freedom to bulldoze anything. And they want to do it before anybody can tell them to stop. They want to limit FOIA. They want secrecy. Obviously, anybody who asks for FOIA limitations, they are not about transparency. Transparency is, of course, kryptonite to corruption. FOIA would allow the public to see communications between Constellation and the village. Automatic annexation is something they also talked about in this annexation deal. So they want more power, and so they want a provision in there that gives them automatic annexation and like more privileges. So this is like a corporate partnership what's going on here with this annexation deal. And the Bible's warned us about this before, okay? So the Bible speaks to this. This is corporate dominion, and they are demanding dominion over this land without accountability. So FOIA request permits and things like that. The Bible talks about powers that demand dominion without accountability, and it warns us about that. So you can almost hear Constellation whispering, listen, Essex, all you have to do is give us these special privileges, okay? And, while we're at it, give us a nice little foot massage as well. But we're going to ignore the fact that your board members here, they sold us the land. That's totally fine. Trust us. we're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and we would never, ever take advantage of you. Sure. Okay. Jeff Bezos delivers, Christmas packages on Christmas Eve too, because out of the kindness of his heart. No, that doesn't happen. You have to buy them. So I don't believe them when they say like, oh, we're going to work and we're going to be transparent with the community and blah, 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 whatever we end up putting there, because they've already shattered transparency by asking for limited FOIA fulfillment. They've already shattered it by doing annexation deals with the same board members who sold them the land. Or privilege deals with negotiating deals with the same people who sold them the land. So Rainey describes Constellation and how they bought the land. This is where the plot really thickens. Okay. So they bought the land, and the land is kind of split. And I know this area somewhat well because I used to live there. It's between two jurisdictions. So the village of Essex, part of the land is in the village of Essex, and part of the land is in the county, which I believe is Kankakee County. So there are two jurisdictions, two sets of taxes. Okay, so Constellation's message, according to residents, give us the annexation deal, and we're going to bless you with the tax revenue. Okay, so right now, Constellation, they do like, I think 30 million in property taxes to the community, which that community really needs, because it's, small town and the schools are like way above, because those property taxes go straight to schools. Schools are way above like any other school with a population that size because of the nuclear plant and Constellation paying those property taxes. But I don't like this. It's kind of like they're holding the town hostage. Refuse and will de-annex from the village, and we'll give all the money to the county instead. Okay. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's like threatening. That's like not partnership. That it's kind of extortion with a corporate logo. So they're between two jurisdictions, and then they can, I think, if they asked for a unified tax ID, their taxes would go to the village. If they were in a uniform or single tax ID is what they want, not a uniform tax ID. Their taxes would go to the village. Most likely they want to do that because the county, Kankakee County, has some ordinances. Yeah, some issues with environment ordinances, things that might be hurdles for this corporation when rolling out this data center. So that's why they want to do just village stuff, because this is a tiny little town with little board members and very little ordinances. How these people didn't even have a zoning board of appeals, and they had to create one. It's been dormant for a while, and then they've had to kind of revive this zoning board of appeals. I'll get to that here in just a second, but this is the kind of power play the founding fathers warned us about, the subtle tyranny that creeps in when corporations get bigger than communities. So we've got small little communities, and these corporations are huge. They're coming in and they're wanting to exploit the lack of laws or the lack of governance in these little tiny communities. So Constellation knows exactly what they're doing. They're dangling tax dollars in front of a small village, like a little cat toy, a shiny cat toy. But Essex isn't chasing it. Okay. Remember Constellation describing these as harmless data centers or yada, yada. They're not harmless. Okay. They take massive amounts of water and electricity. And I'm not anti-data center. I want to be clear. Like AI is not a boogeyman. Donald Trump is doing this and probably providing a lot of tax credits to Meta. And I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg at all, but I understand why Donald Trump is doing it, because he wants to beat China at it. And I'm not totally against that. But I don't like when the government gets into the private sector and starts offering tax credits and breaks to certain industries. You'll see the Democrats sell out America. They won't do it to the benefit of America. They'll actually sell out and provide tax breaks to foreign interests. For example, Goshen, Manteno, this was something that Governor J.B. Pritzker did, $500 million in tax incentives to Goshen to build EV batteries here, and they have ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Okay, so Chinese Communist Party benefiting by putting Goshen here, right? That's not to the benefit of America. Republicans, when they provide tax credits, it's always to corporations for the benefit of America and for America to hum. Okay. I don't like any of it. I would prefer the free market be the free market. Okay, so Essex, they don't have the water it takes. They don't have the electricity it takes, the infrastructure it takes to put this thing here. Okay, so Rainey, she says, hey, we have a very dry area, and that is true. They're in terms of groundwater. So they don't even have really like, there was a high point, and this is funny, sort of ironic, not funny, but it's like ironic and weird. There was a golf course on that land that is now going to be this data center, and it caught fire. Pause for dramatic effect. Now owned by Constellation. But anyway, the fire, they couldn't even really put it out. They had to call like 10 other municipalities because they didn't have a fire hydrant system because they really don't have groundwater there. So this golf course burns, and they had to call like 10 towns for water. And now Constellation is potentially going to bring in those data centers that's going to require enormous amounts of electricity and cooling systems with that water. So data centers drink water like it's not like they've got to have Niagara Falls. Okay. They drink water like Niagara Falls on steroids. So, I don't know. You want to put this in a place where they can't even put out like a little brush fire. This isn't planning. It's reckless. And not to mention the Zoning Board of Appeals. So let's get there. They don't even have a Zoning Board of Appeals that was dormant for years, never used, never staffed. The town never really needed it, I guess, but now they need it because they're going to try to rezone 600 plus acres of land. And I hate this when they start to rezone stuff. Stop. Like, no. Okay. Because it's infringing on other people's property rights. Okay, this was zoned agricultural. Now you're going to do heavy industrial. You're going to rezone it, and suddenly the board has been resurrected. The Zoning Board of Appeals. It's kind of like Frankenstein. I'm alive, and they've recrafted this Zoning Board of Appeals. What should have happened was, hey, actually, this is zoned agricultural. We don't have a Zoning Board of Appeals. Sorry, Constellation, we can't rezone this, like for heavy industrial. Okay. The zoning rules protect the residents. So we want to strengthen those rules. Residents of Essex are going to want to strengthen those zoning rules and regulations. So their fight right now is with the Zoning Board of Appeals. What they have to do is convince the Zoning Board of Appeals that this is bad for the community, the water, the electricity, yada, yada, and they don't have the infrastructure for it, and to not rezone it. And if they do rezone it, then they're going to have to implement, the residents are going to have to try to fight the zoning board to implement some ordinances that protect the residents from environmental damage. So local government is not working for the people in this sense. They're doing annexation deals and agreements and negotiations. The village board members who sold, that is a conflict of interest. They sold it to Constellation, and yet they're participating in these negotiation deals. Not a good idea. So the Bible teaches us stewardship, transparency, honest weights and measures, guarding the vulnerable, standing up against unjust rulers. What Essex is facing is a test of stewardship. God didn't give communities land so corporations could quietly carve it up behind closed doors. Okay, He didn't give us families so that local officials could sign away their futures for a convenient land sale. Okay, local officials should be standing with families who reside there and not selling out. He didn't give us small towns, so that way $1 billion enterprise could come in and dictate the terms like they're negotiating with servants. Okay, so this corporation is not being biblical in a sense where they aren't even really being transparent about what's going there, although we kind of all know what's going there. Okay, Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. Constellation is kind of doing this song and dance where they're like, it might be a yes, or yes might be a yes, or no might be a no, or yes might be a maybe. Don't ask questions, and that's not biblical. So at the end of the day, their yeses aren't yeses and their nos aren't nos. And that alone should send off warning bells. And we should be saying, hey, this is gaslighting. And they're not being strong in what they're saying they're going to do with this land here. And they're not being transparent. So they are showing up, the Essex residents. I do have to say that they're doing exactly what the founders intended. They're asking questions. They're demanding transparency. The Essex Coalition is refusing to be bullied by power and money. That's liberty. That's America first. And that is the heart of the show. So smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I think that's going to do it for our show today. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And remember, the land belongs to the people, not corporations, not bureaucrats, and not the politicians who forget who they serve. Lovers of liberty, subscribe. We will be back. Yes, correct. Clearing and flattening is what grading is. Yeah, I'm not a construction guy. But they are trying to get permits. They're trying to kind of subvert this process where they're supposed to get permits for that kind of stuff. And they don't want to deal with the permitting. So they just want to demolish and grade without any kind of permits or checks and balances. Smash that like button, subscribe. We will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early. Again, I appreciate you tuning in. Tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Time. Bye-bye. Love you so much.